Judy Garland's eldest daughter, Liza Minnelli, is finally sharing some personal details about her life. The 80-year-old opened up about her friendship with Michael Feinstein in an unusual interview published in Interview magazine on October 16. During the interview, she discussed her childhood with legendary actors Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli. When asked about her favorite and least favorite parts of growing up, by being open and honest about her parents, Liza gives us a glimpse into the tumultuous life she has lived. What was their family relationship like? What were the struggles she had to go through? Let's dig deeper. Garland's own early life and career. However, to have a complete comprehension of the reasons for the difficulty of her connection with Judy Garland, it is necessary to take a step back and examine Garland's early life. She was the youngest of three sisters who were steeped in the world of entertainment from a very young age. Judy Garland was born Frances Ethel Gumm on the 10th of June 1922 in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. She was the center of attention in the entertainment industry. Before the start of each picture, the girls would perform for the public at the local movie theater that was owned by her father, Frank Gumm. They would sing and dance to delight the audience. Little Frances Gumm and her three older sisters gave a performance of Jingle Bells at a Christmas event when she was only 2 years old. This was her first experience with the stage. Throughout their appearances, the sisters continued to captivate the people in their immediate vicinity. They frequently sang together while their mother, Ethel Gumm, who had previously performed in vaudeville, used to play the piano. She frequently looked back on her early years in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, with a great deal of nostalgia, even though she would go on to achieve a great deal of success in the future. One day, she pondered on her life and said, "When I think about it, the first 4 years of my life were the happiest years I have ever had." The Gumm family, while always creating a shiny image on stage, experienced many storms behind the scenes. Throughout her career, Judy Garland, real name Frances Gumm, shared many stories about her complicated family life, especially about her parents' strained marriage. Her mother, Ethel Gumm, was an ambitious and determined woman. Ethel devoted all her energy to developing her daughters' performing careers, even taking them away on long audition trips. Meanwhile, her husband, Frank Gumm, stayed back home. Sources say that during the times when his wife and daughters were away, Frank tended to flirt with young men who worked at the theater he ran. This not only fueled rumors, but also caused tension in Ethel and Frank's relationship. The signs of disloyalty made Ethel, instead of focusing on solving her problems, even more determined to make her children stars. For her, bringing them to the top of fame was not only a duty, but also an escape, a way to prove her worth and success as a mother, regardless of personal sacrifice. Ethel did not hesitate to put severe pressure on her daughters, especially Judy, during their training and performances, hoping to turn them into great artists. At times, she was said to have pushed her children to the point of feeling overwhelmed, but Ethel remained steadfast in her views, believing that strictness and commitment were the keys to success. Her determination contributed to Judy Garland's illustrious career, but also left deep marks on the actress's personal life. When Judy Garland was only 4 years old, her family decided to leave their peaceful life in Minnesota to seek new opportunities in Lancaster, California. The Minnesota setting was considered a peaceful part of Garland's memories, but rumors began to spread about her father, Frank Gumm, that he had inappropriate behavior with some male ushers at the family theater. To escape social pressure and preserve their image, the Gumm family chose to start a new life in California, carrying with them hope and determination for a better future. This trip was a turning point not only geographically, but also in the direction of the family's life. Arriving in a new land, Garland and her family had the opportunity to come into contact with the vast entertainment industry in Hollywood. Although hoping to escape the complications of the past, they were quickly drawn into the glamorous but also extremely harsh world of the entertainment industry. It didn't take long for Frank to settle in Lancaster and establish a new theater there, setting off on an ambitious journey for the family. Judy's mother, Ethel Gumm, was fiercely ambitious, and she played a major role in pushing her daughters into the arts. Seeing that California was a promising land for those aspiring to a career in theater and film, Ethel set her plans into motion. She enrolled her daughters in dance and performance classes at a very young age, hoping that they would soon attract attention in the entertainment industry. Ethel regularly took Judy and her sisters to auditions and performances, thus training them to perform in front of crowds. As a result of their perseverance, the three individuals ultimately achieved some kind of popularity, and began performing under the moniker the Gum Sisters. When Garland was only 7 years old, she was already performing regularly with her siblings as a member of the performer group known as the Gum Sisters. It was a routine that became the focal point of Garland's life when he was younger, and it consisted of them singing and dancing in front of crowds night after night. In the book Judy Garland on Judy Garland, Interviews and Encounters, edited by Randy L. Schmidt, Judy Garland shared the emotional scars her early career brought her. Garland recalled that in 1934, when her family's original show group, the Gum Sisters, became the Garland Sisters, she officially adopted the name Judy, inspired by the popular song Judy by Hoagy Carmichael. This change was not only a step in building her image, but also marked a profound change in Garland's life as she began her performing career at a very young age. The name change itself was a sign that she was no longer just an innocent girl, but was gradually becoming part of a larger system where the expectations and pressures of fame became very clear. Garland's mother, Ethel, was behind most of these decisions, with a burning desire to make her daughter a star. With this goal in mind, she constantly pushed Judy and her sisters into opportunities that she thought would help them shine. At times, Ethel even put her children in situations that were beyond their ability to handle, not hesitating to take them to auditions and performances in venues that she thought would attract the attention of powerful people. Ethel hoped that their presence in these venues would help Judy and her sisters break into the world of professional artists and attract the attention of potential producers and directors. However, this also meant that Judy and her sisters were often exposed to environments that were not appropriate for their age. Performance venues were not always child-friendly or safe. Young girls have to adapt to stressful situations that only adults can face, which adds to the stress and expectations placed on Garland. While most children her age are enjoying their carefree lives, Judy was in the spotlight, exposed to judgment and criticism from audiences and industry insiders. The pressure to please the crowd, not disappoint her mother, and prove her talent placed a huge mental burden on Garland from a very young age. Ethel's determination was strong, and she encouraged her son to push his limits by setting a rigorous performance schedule. In a 1967 interview with Barbara Walters, Garland shared that when she was not feeling well, she would tell her son, "Go out there and express yourself. I believe you can do it." Despite the difficult times, this motivated Garland to always strive for her musical career. Ethel, a dominating stage mother, was the first to put Garland, then age 10, on a strict medication regimen, including amphetamines, to boost her energy and ensure she had rest after long performances. This worrying trend of drug use continued after Garland joined MGM, where studio management closely monitored her diet and weight. Garland's weight and diet were closely monitored. When Garland was just 12, Gum Sisters was able to attract the attention of lyricist Burton Lane in 1935. Her voice, very mature for someone her age, fascinated Lane. Compared to what one would expect from a toddler, Garland's voice was so loud and powerful that it commanded attention wherever it was displayed. Lane recognized her great potential and introduced her to Louis B., who was impressed. This was Mayer, the head of MGM, the largest and most respected film company in Hollywood. When Garland was just 13 years old, MGM signed him to a contract. It seems that after Garland signed with MGM, she also signed to have her appearance displayed forever for all to judge. Throughout her career, Garland was subjected to constant gossip about her appearance. My Little Hunchback was the nickname Louis Mayer, the head of MGM Studios, often called her. After a while, Garland finally admitted, starting at the age of 13, there was a constant conflict between MGM and me. When it comes to my childhood, this one stands out to me the most. 6 weeks after Garland's father signed with MGM, he unexpectedly recovered from meningitis. Garland, who had a deep and abiding bond with her father, was devastated when he died. In a sense, the studio took on the role of a surrogate parent. "I'll tell Mr. Mayer if you don't behave yourself," she explained. The grueling and demanding schedule Garland endured as a member of MGM's roster of rising stars was something few could handle. She often played the girl next door role, and she often found herself juggling 2 or 3 film projects at once. Her days often began with 3 hours of early morning classes, followed by singing practice and long hours on set, often stretching into the early hours of the next morning, sometimes not ending until 5 in the morning. The harsh treatment she underwent took took a toll on both her physical and mental health. Garland relied on a strict medication schedule to cope with the fatigue and stress she was experiencing. She was 15 when she became dependent on them. Her efforts eventually paid off, as Garland had one of her most important successes in 1939 when she was cast as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz for the film. Garland, on the other hand, was not the first person considered for the role of Dorothy Gale in The Wizard of Oz early in the casting process. Although studio boss Louis B. Mayer had his sights set on Shirley Temple from 20th Century Fox, producers Arthur Freed and Mervyn LeRoy had been interested in Garland from the beginning of their relationship. After Temple turned down the offer, the studio considered replacing her with Deanna Durbin, but she was also unavailable, so they decided to cast Garland in the role. The filmmakers initially intended for her to wear a blonde wig to resemble the character in the novel, but after seeing it on camera, they ultimately decided not to pursue the idea. Instead, Garland's blue gingham dress was chosen because it appeared slightly translucent on film, softening her figure and giving her a childlike appearance that was perfect for the role of Dorothy. Because Temple was playing Dorothy, the studio took steps to ensure that Garland looked as youthful as possible. This meant she had to lose weight. She was strictly forbidden from eating even a single piece of candy and had to follow a strict diet to maintain her figure. To control her appetite, she adopted a diet that included black coffee, chicken soup, amphetamines, and diet pills. Her diet was tailored to her needs. In addition to having a prosthetic nose, she also had to wear a corset to slim her waist. It was inevitable that Garland would eventually become dependent on these strict diets, which would continue to be a source of anxiety for the rest of her life. Throughout her career, the image of Dorothy remained closely associated with Garland. I think some of them were quite disappointed with me because I didn't braid my hair, I didn't dress like Dorothy, and I wasn't 11 or 12 anymore, Garland told James Reed in 1940. Garland's fears of commitment were deep, and it seems that her involvement in The Wizard of Oz only added to the pressures she faced. The other actors in her crew were unhappy with her growing stardom, as they felt that the young woman's abilities were superior to their own. This caused them to distance themselves from her, and the only adult friendship she had on film was with Margaret Hamilton, who played the Witch of the West. She was the only adult she met on set. In contrast, Garland endured an uncomfortable work environment at MGM, which she endured in addition to other hardships. Additionally, she was exposed to unwelcome approaches by her co-stars in The Wizard of Oz, notably the actors who played the Munchkins. Sidney Luft, Judy Garland's third husband, wrote a biography titled Judy and I, My Life, with Judy Garland. In it, he detailed how they would make her life unpleasant on set. After some time had passed, Liza Minnelli discussed the impact that Hollywood had on her mother in subsequent interviews. Every aspect of her life, including the food she consumed, was under their thumb. Liza revealed that she was always subjected to pressure to appear in a particular manner. Abusive relationships. Judy Garland's personal life mirrored the turmoil she experienced in her professional life. When Garland first married, it was essentially a search for independence. She believed that married life would help her escape the chaos that surrounded her. So, in 1941, Garland, then 19, married David Rose, then 30. Judy Garland married David Rose on the 28th of July, 1941, despite pressure from her mother and studio officials, who gave her several ultimatums. Shortly after the wedding, Garland discovered she was pregnant, but due to the immense stress of the entertainment industry, the pregnancy was not continued. Their relationship began to unravel, and after only 8 months of marriage, they decided to divorce in 1944. In 1945, Judy Garland met Vincente Minnelli, who would become her second husband, while they were both working on the set of Meet Me in St. Louis. They had a daughter together, Liza Minnelli. As an actress, Garland was able to expand her range thanks to Vincente Minnelli's encouragement to take on more mature roles. Unfortunately, one day, Garland strolled into her home, only to discover that her husband, Vincente Minnelli, was having an affair with a male coworker. The traumatic experience left her emotionally devastated. Garland returned to work the next day, acting as if nothing had happened, despite the chaos that had ensued. After this experience, she developed a tendency to immerse herself in her work, a pattern that would continue throughout her life. A mental breakdown that Garland suffered during the production of The Pirate in 1947 led to her being admitted to a private sanatorium for treatment. Despite completing the video, she was admitted to the Austin Riggs Center, where she spent a total of 2 weeks in rehabilitation. Her health continued to deteriorate despite Garland's enormous success with the Easter parade. Struggling with fatigue and emotional instability, she often arrived late to the set or did not show up at all during production. Her contract was terminated on the 17th of June, 1950, as a result of this factor. The film Summer Stock, released that same year, was her last appearance for MGM. Garland and MGM parted ways in September 1950, after a tumultuous 15-year history with the company. With the support of producer Sid Luft, who would later become Garland's third husband, Garland began the process of rebuilding her career in 1951. They married that same year, and although their relationship was sometimes described as tumultuous, Luft was instrumental in Garland's career resurgence. Under his influence, Garland was able to make a dramatic comeback to live performances, including her legendary performance at the London Palladium and a record-breaking run at the Palace Theatre in New York City. Although Garland considered herself primarily a singer, Sid Luft was instrumental in securing her a starring role in the film A Star is Born, in which she co-starred with James Mason. Garland was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress due to the film's immense popularity. However, Judy Garland's marriage to Sid Luft faced serious financial difficulties. Despite their professional success, Luft spent a large portion of Garland's hard-earned money at casinos, which eventually led to their divorce in 1960. Garland's fourth marriage to Mark Herron opened another chapter in her tumultuous love life. Although she married Herron in the summer of 1964, she was still officially married to Sid Luft at the time. Unfortunately, the marriage fell apart shortly after Garland learned that Herron was having an affair with Peter Allen, who was married to Liza Minnelli's daughter. Judy Garland's daughter, Elizabeth Minnelli, was introduced to Peter Allen, a close friend of Mark Herron's. At the time, Mark Herron was having an affair with Judy Garland. It was eventually decided that Minnelli and Allen would marry, but their wedding night turned out to be a nightmare. 17 months later, Garland and Herron finalized their divorce. Garland's financial difficulties. In February 1967, Garland signed a contract with 20th Century Fox to play Helen Lawson in the film Valley of the Dolls. Helen Lawson was a character who was described as an older woman with a bad temper. Garland even recorded a song just for the film in addition to her costume fitting. On the other hand, she began to have difficulties when filming began. There were allegations that Garland would frequently lock herself in her dressing room and that she would not perform because she was too drunk to do so. Additionally, there are some sources that suggest that Garland was never completely comfortable with the job from the start. Garland was terminated from the film and was awarded a $37,500 settlement when she left. The actual reason for her termination remains unknown. In addition to her struggles, Garland's relationship with her children was also problematic, just like her relationship with her mother. Liza Minnelli mentioned that her mother would experience sudden and unpredictable mood swings. When asked about her happiness, she said that she was more than just happy. She couldn't contain her joy. When she was depressed, she was even more depressed than anyone else. In her later years, Garland faced serious financial challenges, including owing the Internal Revenue Service hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes. She began performing at the Palace Theatre in New York in an attempt to regain her financial security. Her concerts were always sold out at the Palace Theatre whenever she went there. However, much of her income was taken away to meet her tax obligations. Garland managed to succeed despite these obstacles, as evidenced by her performance before an audience of 100,000 at the Boston Common in August 1967. She also performed 2 more shows at the Felt Forum Theatre at Madison Square Garden in December for her homecoming. According to the production assistant who worked on Talk of the Town, she occasionally arrived a little late but still managed to put on a satisfactory show and was perfectly fine. However, there were many evenings when she did not show up, or she arrived late enough to the venue that the audience's support had completely evaporated and a wise judgment had to be made as to whether to allow her to continue. By unfortunate circumstances, her participation in Talk of the Town marked the beginning of her end. The Observer, one of the media outlets that picked up the show, described her performance as thinner, almost gaunt. Her large brown eyes scanned the audience in search of a friendly face. "I haven't been taught anything new since the silent film days," she said hoarsely, angrily. The celebrated actress has worked hard to maintain her commitment to acting, which is what she loves to do most. She regularly finds ways to relieve stress, and she did so while performing emotional renditions of songs like "I Belong to London," "The Man That Got Away," "You Made Me Love You," and "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." One particularly difficult occasion was when she arrived on stage an hour and 20 minutes late. Garland was hospitalized in 1959 with hepatitis and cirrhosis, both serious conditions that were the result of her dangerous lifestyle choices that had spiraled out of control over the previous decade. Her health was greatly affected by her battle with drugs and the enormous expectations that came with fame. Garland's former agent Stevie Phillips described her as a perfectionist and exceptionally gifted. He also described her as truly talented. Bennett Cerf, an editor at Random House, visited Garland while she was in the hospital. He made her an offer that she seemed unable to resist. The offer was a $35,000 contract for a truly honest and raw autobiography that delved into her emotional life and career. Garland was able to write 65 pages of her experiences, which she did because she was motivated to tell her story. However, after she returned to Los Angeles, the memoir remained unfinished and unfinished. In 1966, Garland attempted to revive the project by contacting Random House in hopes of completing the book. However, her request was denied. In the final years of her life, the child star Garland found herself without a suitable place to live. Lorna Luft, Garland's second daughter, claimed in her biography, Me and My Shadows, A Family History, that by the mid-1960s, Garland was homeless and broke. Garland, in desperate need of extra income, found herself playing at gay bars in New York, where she earned less than $100 a night. Because she had cut off almost everyone in her life, she became largely dependent on her fans for support during this difficult time. She would sleep on their couches and lean on their fans, and she would often show up at their homes with just a few plastic bags containing all her belongings. It was hard to accept that one of the most famous people of her time had become completely destitute. You could see her sleeping on the couches of her supporters. It was a terrible thing. This is what Liza Minnelli would comment in the future. "I knew my mother was in pain, but she always tried to show it. She never wanted anyone to witness her suffering in front of the world." The life of Liza Minnelli. After Judy Garland died in 1969, at the age of 47, from an overdose of barbiturates, Liza Minnelli, then 23 years old, not only comforted Mickey Deans, her mother's fifth husband, but also publicly expressed her sadness over her mother's early passing in public statements. According to Rolling Stone magazine, Liza Minnelli only allowed herself to cry once, and that was in the car on the way to Manhattan, when she was informed of the news that her mother, Judy Garland, had passed away. When Minnelli faced enormous pressure to hold a public funeral, she bravely stood her ground and insisted on a private, dignified ceremony. Liza Allen filed for divorce for the first time from singer-songwriter Peter Allen in 1974. The reason for the divorce was that Liza was gay and her career was taking off at the same time as his. It's great when a man's career is going well. However, her career is, while he is not, a state of fear has set in. Be patient. As he commented, "You never come home to cook dinner anymore. I have to work to buy food to prepare dinner," I would say. "I'm a man. I have to earn money," he would argue at times like this. In connection with that, she said that Liza would have 3 more marriages that would end in divorce, just like her mother had. Liza married Jack Haley Jr., a producer and director, the same year she divorced her first husband. Jack Haley Jr.'s father, Jack Haley, had previously worked with Judy Garland on The Wizard of Oz. Liza and Jack's relationship was primarily based on friendship rather than love. As stated in an article published in The Guardian in 2008, they were friends rather than lovers, although Haley was her second husband. A divorce was finalized in 1979 after they had been married for a total of 5 years. In 1979, when Liza was 33, she married for the third time, this time to sculptor Mark Jarrow. During her marriage to Jarrow, Liza endured some personal challenges, including several miscarriages and a stint at the Betty Ford Center. In January 1992, it became clear that their relationship had soured, and Liza was granted a divorce without any legal challenge. This ended Liza's longest marriage. Through Michael Jackson, a friend of David Guest, Liza was introduced to David Guest, who worked as a successful television producer. David Guest would become Liza's fourth and final husband. This led to a lavish wedding in Manhattan that reportedly cost over $3.5 million, with Liza, then 56, wearing a stunning wedding gown designed by Bob Mackie. Their romance blossomed immediately, leading to a lavish wedding. Throughout their relationship, Guest served as Liza's manager and was responsible for organizing her successful comeback tour in 2002. Their relationship was both professional and personal. Before they officially split in 2007, Liza and Guest's relationship began to deteriorate and eventually ended. According to the Washington Post, Guest accused Liza of assaulting him while he was intoxicated. Liza denied all such allegations. Their tumultuous relationship turned into a legal battle, with Guest suing her for $10 million. Liza later filed her own lawsuit, filed in response to Guest's lawsuit. A no-fault divorce and a settlement were finalized in 2007, ending their public conflict. The legal battle went on for years, but was finally settled in 2007. In a 2012 interview with Access Hollywood, Liza stated that she didn't want to think about getting married again. She joked about it. "If you hear I'm getting married, hit me over the head and get me out of there." While reflecting on her previous marriages, she continued, "You try to pamper someone because you love them. Or, in this day and age, why get married? No one else does. I really have no interest in having kids. I tried. It didn't work. It was terrible." Liza's unplanned pregnancy. Liza suffered her first miscarriage during her marriage to Garrow, and she went on to become pregnant twice more, but miscarried again. The New York Times published an article in January 1981 detailing one of Liza Minnelli's miscarriages. This was a particularly heartbreaking loss for the actress, as it is believed she was 5 months pregnant at the time of the miscarriage. The measures Minnelli took, including putting her career on hold to recuperate and relax in the isolation of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Despite her best efforts, problems arose, and she was hospitalized for 10 days before the baby was lost. Liza Minnelli has expressed that her childlessness is one of her greatest regrets in her life. Liza's substance addiction. Throughout her life, Liza Minnelli struggled with the drug that contributed to the death of her mother, Judy Garland, when she was 47. In journals published after Warhol's death, he described an episode in which Minnelli asked their mutual friend, designer Halston, to give him every substance he had. It is believed that Halston supplied her with Valium and Quaaludes. It is also alleged that she shared some of these drugs with filmmaker Martin Scorsese. She has reportedly been to rehab 5 times, most recently in 2015. During that time, her publicist, Scott Gorenstein, shared the news with E! Liza Minnelli has fought her addiction with courage for years, and whenever she needed to seek treatment, she did so. News of Liza seeking treatment at an unnamed facility suggests that Liza Minnelli has used treatment services. Additionally, Liza revealed to Variety that the first place she was taken to for rehab was the Betty Ford Center, where her father took her. While there, she had an important epiphany, which she expressed in an essay she wrote for People in 1981. She claimed that her struggle with addiction stemmed from the fact that she had never truly mourned the loss of her mother. As she claims, there is a risk involved in keeping a deceased person alive in your memory. In 2008, Liza reflected on her struggles with addiction and gained insight into her experiences. This came in an interview she gave to The Guardian. Throughout her life, the disease has been widespread. "It was a terrible legacy for me, but I was never afraid to seek support," she said in an interview with The Guardian. Health concerns. Minnelli has faced several health issues, including difficulties with viral encephalitis in 2000, in addition to her lifelong struggles with addiction. Liza was singing at a rental property in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, when she suddenly collapsed. Firefighters found her semi-conscious and assumed she had suffered a stroke due to symptoms, including slurred speech, paralysis on one side of her body, and drooping facial muscles. Claims that her illness was serious were quickly dismissed by her publicist at the time, who insisted that she was not even close to passing away. Minnelli told Dateline NBC that she was unable to walk or talk, and that she was told that she would never be able to do either of those things again. According to her recollection, when she was told the tragic news, everyone left the room, and I turned to the wall and started saying, "Oh, British Columbia." Because I had to practice at Carnegie Hall, I had that feeling. I had the desire to continue living. Ever since I can remember, I have wanted to live. It is commendable to Minnelli's desire to continue living that she was able to persevere in the face of such serious health issues, just like her mother, Judy Garland. Thanks for watching the video. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and follow us to get the latest celebrity updates. Hope to see you in the next videos.